Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Village Board's June regular meeting to honor our nation's heroes, and especially to honor the men and women in uniform that serve our community. Please rise with us and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Fitzgerald, good evening. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam President. President Gallagher.
Here.
Trustee Hansen.
Here.
Trustee Timmick.
Here.
Trustee Allen.
Here.
Trustee Rudolph is absent. Trustee Sifferman.
Here.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Here.
Having read the agenda for tonight's meeting, does any trustee have any additions or deletions? No. Moving on, we'll move to the portion of our meeting that encourages citizens to come up and speak to the board. Does any citizen tonight have such a request to speak to the board about any matter?
That's okay.
Right.
Turn it on and wait a second and it'll work
And then please
Okay.
state your name.
right up there.
I'm Kathy Bogigian. I'm a 23-year resident of Western Springs.
Hold it up.
Hold closer. I'm a resident of Western Springs, and I have two concerns. Living at Commonwealth, obviously, the 294 expansion. And I realize there's probably not a lot at this point we could do other than hope for a good tollway wall, some noise reduction. I hope you're doing everything you can on behalf of the citizens. I don't hear a lot from Western Springs, so I hope a lot is going on with you and the engineers, and that you're, again, supporting us. Kind of tied in with that is the water situation. I know you've heard this repeatedly, but there are a lot of very unhappy residents with the well water situation. I think we should have had Lake Michigan water a long time ago. I realize that it appears that that's not even on the table anymore. And you have a lot of residents asking why, in addition to tweaking well number 1 and building well number 5, why we can't at least put that on the table as happy residents with the quality of water. And well number 1 is being used quite often, more often. I read a quote in the paper that it's used more than you had hoped to be using well number 1. I saw something on your own website that said the only good thing about well number 1 is that it's wet. We have higher expectations for our village than wet water.
Absolutely.
And so I know I wouldn't drink the water. I know a lot of people that don't drink it. You know, I know you've heard this repeatedly. We're tired of replacing appliances and hot water heaters, and just think we deserve better. The other thing that ties in with 294 is my concern, and I've talked to Mr. Supert about what happens to well number 4, because it's in your engineering report. What's going to happen to one of our 2 good wells, or sort of good wells, when that shoe fly goes in, which will be relatively soon in the process. And once they start doing that pile driving, what the vibrations could do, whether that's going to shut down those wells. Matt said that there's a possibility that, or Mr. Supert, that could have to shut down the well. So it's just, it always seems like there's something down the road that it's never going to be quite right. I feel we're throwing good money after bad, just asking that you'll at least consider what all the residents, not all, most of the residents around here want, which is Lake Michigan water. And we already have part of our village that gets Lake Michigan water. The rest of us don't. So thank you. Sorry to take so much time.
No, thank you. And all the concerns you raised are concerns of ours as well. And trust me, staff and the board is very much on top of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say we have 2 meetings this week
Thank you.
with the Toll Highway Authority on the widening project. And I'm also in the part of the village that has Lake Michigan water. And my wife was complaining about the green and red ring around the inside of I mean, this is the algae bloom right now in Lake Michigan, so you're getting all that coming through. It's not a bargain either. Matt will talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes, but there are problems with lake water as well, including chemicals.
Yes, so Director Supert will be giving a brief historical overview on our water today in a few minutes, as Village Manager Higgins mentioned. But there's also a question and answer forum that Director Supert and our plant superintendent, Aaron Duffy, will conduct on July 20th. Has a time been set for that, Matt?
6 p.m. We're planning for 6 p.m.
Thank you. So on July 20th, 6 p.m., there'll be an informal meeting, question and answer regarding specifically water. Thank you. Jim. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. Jim Horvath, 4110 Lawn. I'm here just to comment on, I'm not an engineer, I don't know water, I don't know water systems. I'm just a resident who's been a resident for 34 years and has been very satisfied with the water in this community. I was skeptical moving here because of well water, but I have found that it is exceptional water. I'm very happy with it, except when we do hydrant flushing. Then I'm not too happy about that. But at least the advance notice is given and they tell you what to do to take care of it. I agree that there are issues within the village, not with the water, but with the distribution system itself. It's almost, you know, my house is 97 years. I don't have any filters in the house other than on the refrigerator. So all I can say is that very satisfied with it. And I would like other people who are satisfied to speak up too, because there are a lot of people who are satisfied. One final thing I might say with regard to the road construction, maybe consideration be given to the areas of the village where there are issues with the infrastructure regarding water, that maybe those two things, not only condition of the road, but the condition of the water mains in those areas, be factored in as well in evaluating when to redo a street in total. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, moving on. Oh. Hi.
I'm Jim Merrick.
Push it up, Jim.
I'm Jim Merrick. It's a former trustee and past chairman of the Water Committee. When I read this comment by that village resident, I just wanted to just make sure that especially the new trustees, that you had some idea of some of the history behind that. I'm sure Pat has probably given you a lot of that. But in terms of the water system, I think the only time that we really come up with a problem is when well one is used. I think serious consideration has to be given to getting a new well, and I think once that is accomplished, we'll probably have better water for the rest of the life of the water plant. Mm-hmm. And when Ken Hayes was the operator, we were looking at some of the statistics, some of the values of the water quality, and I think at one time it actually exceeded the quality of the lake water, and has for many, and probably would for many years, if everything was working correctly. And we spend $8 million on this system, and I think it has the potential to be the best and give the best quality of water that you can have. It just, when people use the word well water, it kind of, I think well number one is a well. Mm-hmm. I think, well 3 and 4, and hopefully the future well is going to be distinguished between an artesian well or something that goes so deep that it gets much more filtration by the natural limestone and rock, and it really comes out with a very good quality water.